We're gonna explain that. So we decided to do a recipe app, recipe assistance. So the main idea is that you're gonna take a photo of your ingredients that you have. You can say whatever you want about your recipe, like I wanted something quick for dinner. And this will then suggest you a recipe, and also will create the assistant experience that you're gonna have someone teach you how to do the recipe. So we're gonna generate images for each steps, and also we're gonna have narration to tell you how to do. So basically, like you have your own personal culinary teacher, right? So first step for us to implement this is to identify ingredients in image. So for that, we use Google Gemini Pro because we got impressed by what we saw in Google I/O. And also, even though we were not able to actually fine tune it, it worked pretty well for our needs. So you can see here the prompt that we use, right? We had to do some prompt engineering. It's not just pointing and getting the image. So we had to tell exactly how we want to output, what we exactly want to output. So we're telling here that we want JSON, it has to be ingredients for food. We don't want a brand because sometimes it was even able to identify the brand. So we don't want to do that, right? So the next step is we're going to use Bragg to pick the recipe. So the first step for us, and it was a little challenge at first, is how we calculate the embeddings for ingredients. So I forgot here, we're using recipe data set. We found Kaggle. It has 400 recipes, but if we index everything, it would take like 7 days. So we only start with the 4,000 first. But it was good because we already had a couple of things that were interesting. So they had names, descriptions, steps, ingredient lists, service info. They also have tags and search terms that help us to make our reg a little more semantic than just trying to get chunks and pulling. So for calculating embeds of the ingredient list, I mean, for doing pasta, for instance, you need water, flour, and eggs. But the order in which you provide those list ingredients doesn't matter. So we have to calculate the embeddings a little bit different. So the way that we did is that we calculate embeddings for each ingredient, and then we sum and took the average. We see that this kind of worked well if it's the same list of ingredients, right? No matter what water would be, the result would be the same. And also, if you take one ingredient on or change, we see that we try to calculate the distance, the cosine similarity of the vectors, it still would be okay. So if you have not exactly the same list of ingredients, still would match good recipes. So we're calculating embeds for the ingredients list for all the first 14,000 recipes that we had on our data set, and store that in files. And so then whenever we have ingredient lists, we would first go to our vector store and select the 5 top recipes that the ingredient list would match the best. And then it's pretty hard to see here because it's pretty small, but this is our RAG prompt. So for the RAG prompt, we're providing only a few fields of the recipe. So we're telling that, okay, this is the recipe ID, this is a small description of the recipe, and this is the tags and the search terms. And then we tell ChatGPT, okay, based on the user input, right? So I don't know, like the user input something. I wanted something that I can cook in 10 minutes. So they could use those informations to pick the best recipe that fills the user needs, and then choose the recipe and tells, okay, this is the recipe and this is why I chose that recipe, because sometimes we didn't show the information, but it was easier for us to debug certain situations. For instance, I try one time that I provide meat as ingredient list, and I ask, okay, I want a vegan recipe, and then I say, okay, I can pick a recipe from this. So once we do this, we know what recipe it is. We have to create the assistant experience, right? So we're going to be using Dolly Tree for generate the illustration for the steps, and to narrate the list, we for the web version we use Cloud TTS because they have a voice that was pretty much very natural and they have this journal voice that was really made for assistance. For mobile, we ended up doing a mobile version too, but the problem that this is not available for mobile is API. And we initially thought of using agents, but agents for us was pretty slow. It was doing a lot of queries. I mean, we're already doing a lot of queries here. You're gonna see that it's already slow for us, but if we put agents, right, every time you reasoning and get an image and do another query to Dolly, and Dolly take like a half second, takes a very long time to return an image. We gave up on that, but it was really good because when we looked to string language meet, we saw the queries. We learned that it was really important to provide a context because initially we thought that, okay, if you have the recipe steps, you just provide the recipe steps as description for the image. But then imagine that you have a step that is just, okay, put everything in the sauce pan. The problem is that Dolly doesn't know what is everything. So we saw that we have to go and ask ChatGPT to rewrite the recipe in a way that have a good descriptions for the images. And also, we also want to rewrite the recipe so it sound more like a really culinary teacher saying those words. So we saw, okay, we can't afford doing agents because it's going to be so many queries. So let's see what we learn from the prompts that the agents generate to create our own prompt. So we end up a prompt like this. It's also not easy to read, but basically we're telling you, okay, you are a culinary teacher, you have to teach this recipe, so rewrite the steps in a way that you would say to your apprentice, and also try to come up with a really good description for each step. So we see here, for instance, I don't know if it's easy for people to see, probably people watching this is going to be better, but one of the instructions, for instance, was just stir in spaghetti sauce meatballs. So if you just give that to Dolly, it doesn't know how to draw that, but then you can see that the actual instruction that we sent to Dolly 3 was like a pot with broken spaghetti, pasta sauce, and frozen meatballs being stirred together. So it's a way better prompt. So yeah, so Dolly would come with something that's more pertinent to our recipe, not some crazy picture.
Sometimes you do some crazy.
Yeah.
I told this to an Italian. Yeah.
So so you can see here that this is the original picture for the recipe from food.com. Those are the images for steps. So you see that sometimes it's really good and get a good description for the steps and get some pretty close. And also we also generate narration for the steps.
My dear apprentice, gather the following ingredients for our delightful asparagus and leek soup. 3/4 pound of fresh asparagus.
So, okay, move to the next slide. So Thiago, talk about more this.
So we end up using Streamlit to implement the front end. And the Streamlit at first sight, we saw it seemed very easy to use, and it is very easy to use, but it has some limitations. For example, we want to do a slideshow experience for to show the recipe and all the steps in sequence, but we're unable to do that easily. So we end up doing tabs instead.
Yeah, also talk about the state management too.
Oh yeah, the state management is another thing because we always re-execute the script every time the user interacts. So we need to do some tricks to save the state, keep in memory for that session. And as a backup plan, we also implement a mobile app because we're developers, so it was easier for us after we couldn't do the slideshow experience. So we ended up doing this over the weekend, but
yeah, we
it's working.
To export part of our systems as a web service. So we had also to in the morning, Sunday morning, try, okay, how can we deploy part? It's a fast API.
Yeah, so for that, we also deploy an API for the app to use. And one of the problems we had was with the Google TTS was only available in Java. It was not very easy to integrate with the Android app we did. And another thing was quotas, like especially the image generation consumes a lot of money. Actually, it's not that cheap. And then we had to put more money there. And I think our account got tier 3 at OpenAI for generating the images. Here, two screenshots, one of the app and one of the website. Let's try to do a demo.
I think you can ask.
So let's try to upload a picture. We can also take a picture of the real images, but let's try to upload a picture. So after you upload the picture, you can also do a prompt or no prompt at all. Let's try.
And
No.
It's gonna take a long time, bear with
Some
us.
time.
because We generate image, so.
Will it be very difficult to do like a negative prompt saying like, I don't like peppers? Like, please do not pull a recipe with peppers.
Well,
Have you thought about that? Like,
no, you're just saying
I mean,
like,
you get it, I
we're
get
just
it.
doing the recipes and then you say this is the user input. So, we didn't like talk like how we kind of secure it, right? You could say
Yeah,
don't pick any recipe. just
in
have
a
recipe.
prompt,
Yeah, you can inject prompts in the way.
I see.
So you can see, select the recipe, cucumber stir fry. So this is the picture from the food.com. Here we can see the list of ingredients and all the steps, and the steps also have narration. So those images are the generated ones based on the steps.
First, place a wok or a heavy pan over high heat.
Usually the pictures are good, but sometimes like here is showing the cucumber slice, right? But on the next step, it has the cucumber in one piece again. You cannot go back in time. I think we got an error for the last two images. We have-
Add a couple of splashes of soy sauce during the last minute of cooking.
Yeah, I think that's it.
More demo, I think. For the group of Molly, Mary and John today.
What do you think was the most like challenging part of like that took? Yeah, the most challenging part, is it the narration or the photos or?
I think initially was to do the rag because we don't know exactly, initially we don't know how can you do the ingredient list because it doesn't have the order, right? So we had to talk to ChatGPT and then, you know, you can never trust that, so you have to really try different ingredient lists and see the cosine to see if they're similar or not. Because once we have that, I think the thing is that we got like free of how we do the queries to get the pictures because we learned from the agents. Usually we're really using that and then we realize, okay, we cannot just use the staff. The agents are using something different, so we have to do like this in order to get best results.
Okay. So we're going to be